Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross from PTCGRadio, and I'm back with a top 4 game from the Professor Cup Rules tournament in Sutton Coldfield. Not the actual Professor Cup, but a tournament played with the same rules, which is just as good. In this game we have on the left Rhys Williams with his Torkoal deck against his brother and my round 4 opponent Luke Williams. Rhys on the left, Luke on the right, with his mono Avalugg healing deck. He's just playing a 2-2 line of Avalugg and a bunch of healing. Now, with this being top 4, they've implemented a new rule just for game 1 of this best of 3 series. They will be playing reverse play. That means the first thing you do on your turn is attack. Then you go through the attaching an energy, playing your trainer cards, retreating, etc. And you end your turn by drawing a card, which is a novel way to do it. This was an actual rule that they did use at the Professor Cup, the real one in the UK. Oh, in Europe, I should say, which was held in the UK. And you'll see they both start there with a mulligan. So, it was an interesting little rule. It's not quite so good for something like Torkoal that Rhys is playing, of course, because he won't be able to attack kind of any time soon, because the first thing he'll have to do is attack, which means he's got to have his free energy on Torkoal in order to actually get the attack off. Now, if you haven't seen them already, do go and check out my video explaining the Professor Cup tournament. I did a little video explaining what the rules were and what the format was and all the main cards. I stuck Furthrow in there despite him being a holo rare. But other than that, it was a pretty good tournament, so go and check that bad boy out. And also go and have a look at I put my 5 Swiss rounds up. I didn't make top 4 unfortunately, but you can go and see all of my 5 Swiss rounds on my lovely YouTube channel from this lovely tournament. And thank you to the lovely people, Joanna and Glenn especially, at Sutton Coldfield, for not only running the tournament, but also allowing me to film these videos at the particular event. So you see Rhys is starting with a Dunsparce, and the reason he's playing Dunsparce is because all he really wants to play is 2 Torkoal. But it's a free prize game, so there's no point only playing 2 basics. You might as well put another one in, and Dunsparce is a basic with free retreat. It's only got 40 HP, and you see there that Luke hits a Tails on roller skates, and then he red cards Rhys, meaning Rhys is going to start with a 4-card hand. And as you've seen from the previous videos, that is often followed up with a Skylar for himself, but apparently not this time. So he's playing Dunsparce, it's only got 40 HP, but it's got free retreat. And also, it's a Pokemon that you can use to sacrifice while you build up a Torkoal. And although your opponent really gets a prize there, essentially, if you're the Torkoal player, you lose if 2 Torkoal go down. So losing that Dunsparce really doesn't matter. And you see that he gets another Dunsparce. And that's it, so he plays his Sycamore. Now, Sycamore's not a card that's seen a huge amount of play in this format, because drawing 7 cards out of a 30-card deck is almost too much, but when you're playing a deck which revolves around discarding fire energy, you want all the discarding you've got, and really the only other discard cards you've got here are 2 Ultra Balls, so you really need those Sycamore to try and get those fire energy into the discard pile, so you can see where they're going with this. So you see Rhys hasn't got a huge amount there. He's got 1 energy on his Torkoal. He's got the Muscle Band, but that's about it. Now, Torkoal does have an attack, which does, I believe, 20 for 1 fire energy. So he can free retreat the Dunsparce there. And, you know, he could have done the attack. But remember, we are playing reverse order here. So although Rhys couldn't do the attack there, he needs to leave the Torkoal active so that he can attack at the start of his next turn. And you'll see that he just lost his second Sycamore, because at the very beginning of his turn, Luke attacked, and he used Bergmite's, I believe it's called Knockoff, which discards the top card of your opponent's deck. So he attacked with Bergmite, then he evolved into Avalugg. So it's kind of strange playing this reverse order. Now, I believe there is a special rule coming up here, and that is, and you'll see them pausing while they hear the rule, I believe, and it's going to obviously just wait for Luke to draw his cards, I believe they are each picking a random card from the opponent's hand and then discarding it. So I believe you've got an Ultra Ball being discarded from Rhys there, and a Bergmite. I know you can't see that on the camera, but yes, it is definitely a Bergmite being discarded. And as I've said, Luke only plays a 2-2 Avalugg line. They are all of his Pokemon. So Rhys discarding his Bergmite there was an absolutely huge play, meaning that Luke now only has that one Avalugg for the rest of the game. So now Rhys does start his turn and attack with a Torkoal. The 20 attack plus 20 for the Muscle Band puts 40 on there. And I hope you're not too confused by this whole reverse turn malarkey. Now, for those who haven't been paying attention to the previous videos, because this is a Professor Rules format, there are random rules being chucked in regularly. So you saw there the random rule was pick a card from your opponent's hand and discard it at random. So Rhys has done his attack, he's just running through, seeing what he can do now. He has got 2 energy in his discard pile, so he's going to be looking to get a Blacksmith to get those 2 energy onto Torkoal. Because what he hasn't actually done yet is got a second energy on that Torkoal. Although, truth be told, putting a second energy on that Torkoal doesn't really do much, because he's got to have 3 energy on it at the end of this turn in order to be able to attack with it as the beginning action of his next turn. Although, if he put 1 energy on here, he could then put a 3rd energy on during his next turn to attack in the turn after that. But you can really see where this is going. You know, the Torkoal deck really relies upon getting those free energy and doing 100 damage. So it's really not going all too well. So he does get the attack off there for 80, and then uses, I believe, a Super Potion to heal the 40 damage done to it. Then attaches an energy, and then draws his card to end the turn. So Rhys is then going to do only 20 damage, because remember, you've seen a lot of Avalugg on this in this tournament so far, because Avalugg really is the best card in the format, unless you can get a lot of Team Flare Grunts and draw into them early to discard the energy. So Avalugg, when you use his attack for 40, it blocks 20 the following turn. So although Rhys has a Muscle Band and attack for 20, that gets put from 40 down to 20, due to the Avalugg having attacked the previous turn. So you see there, Rhys is really struggling for energy here. His Torkoal goes down, and he needs to get a second Torkoal and a Blacksmith, and he needs to do it this turn with a 3rd energy, and that can be done. If he's got, if he gets Torkoal, Blacksmith, energy, he's got 3 energy on that Torkoal, ready to attack the following turn. So it's not the end of the world. Now, I believe he has used Dunsparce's attack there, which I think might confuse the Avalugg. I must confess, I don't have that attack written down in front of me right there. Or is it gone to sleep? Either way, he has done something to that. And really, he's clutching at straws, is Rhys here. And you see a red card there from Luke, putting Rhys's hand down to 4. Honestly, there's very, very little Rhys can do here unless he's getting it, straight away. So that Dunsparce has an attack where if you flip ahead, your opponent is paralysed. So that must have been what he did that previous turn, just trying to buy himself a little bit of time. And I suppose that's the advantage of Dunsparce I didn't mention earlier in the game. As well as being a basic with free retreat, essentially allowing you to start Dunsparce, get the energy, Blacksmith combo, and Torkoal on turn 1, regardless of who your starter is. Because if Torkoal's active, you can Blacksmith onto him. If he's not, you can retreat to Dunsparce. It's also got that paralyze attack. Now, what you might have missed there was a special rule where you flip a coin. If heads, you put 10 damage on your opponent's Pokemon. If tails, you put 20 damage onto yours. You will see that both of the Williams brothers there hit a tails, which is why the Avalugg went from 20 up to 40, and the Dunsparce went from 0 up to 20. So another little rule there, and they both happen to flip a tails. So he's going to be using Rhys is going to be using a Power Pad there. He's going to get a Sycamore back, and I didn't quite see what the other card was there. Just to kind of give himself a little bit more draw power. He's bought himself a bit more time with another Heads on Dunsparce's Glare attack, but truth be told, he is very quickly running out of time here. That Avalugg has loads of energy on, and it's really not going to take very long for Luke to take his last 2 prizes as soon as he ends up not paralysed anymore. It really will be just a matter of time. Now, you'll notice that Luke has put a bunch of energy. He's actually got 5 energy on that Avalugg here. As I mentioned, Luke is only playing a 2-2 Avalugg line, and he's lost his second Bergmite. And I believe, although he could have been playing Sacred Ash, I don't believe he is playing Sacred Ash. Because he's not playing Ultra Ball or Sycamore, so he's only going to discard them in these weird kind of situations like we saw happen with the extra rules. So this is probably the only game he actually needed to get that Bergmite back. And it's similar to Torkoal. If you lose 2 Avalugg, ladies and gentlemen, you've lost the game anyway. So, yeah, so essentially by putting more energy on, it gives some... It really gives some insurance against if Rhys starts playing down Team Flare Grunts, but also remember Luke is playing Super Potion, allowing him to heal 60 damage as long as he discards an energy attached to his active Pokemon. So by putting extra energy onto the active Pokemon, it means that he can Super Potion without losing all of that energy. You know, and he'll probably have an energy to attach, but he doesn't need to worry about having an energy to attach here, and that is a huge, huge advantage that we see here. So, there's not a huge amount going on here. Both parties are thinking. But crucially here, Luke is able to drop that Pokemon Center Lady, meaning Avalugg is no longer paralyzed, and it heals a bunch of damage. But of course, we then go straight into Rhys's turn. But he hits a Tails. Now that's another one of these weird situations you get with the reverse rules. Or the reverse turn order, because there, Luke started to turn paralysed, and although he got out of the paralysis of Pokemon Center Lady, his attack phase had already passed. He could no longer attack. There was nothing he could actually do. Now you'll notice that Rhys finally gets a Blacksmith off there, and he's got free energy and a Muscle Band on Torkoal. But the problem is he's already lost a Torkoal. And Blacksmith, I believe, only actually works on fire Pokemon, so he wouldn't be able to do it to Dunsparce. So that's a really big downside here. Now, I don't know if he does play a Sacred Ash, but if he does, he needs to get it very, very soon, because he's only doing 100 damage to that Avalugg. Now, Avalugg didn't use his attack to block 20 the following turn on Luke's last turn because he was paralysed when he could attack. So, Luke can do 100 here. The problem is... Rhys can do 100 here. Very difficult commentating on a game played by 2 brothers. The difference is, of course, that Luke can then just put a second Water Energy on there, attack for 180 with weakness, and then the Torkoal of all the energy goes down, and Rhys is down to just those 2 Dunsparce. Now, Dunsparce does have a second attack, but it's fairly uninspiring. Now, it does for a DCE do 10 damage plus 10 for each damage counter on the opponent's active Pokemon. So actually, what you'll be able to do here is do 100, and then he would be able to use Dunsparce to come in and actually get 120 damage, because it would do an extra 100 damage. It would actually do, 110. And then, of course, there's Lysandra there, and he's going back to the Glare. And Luke kind of sees that. Luke realises that if he gets hit by the Torkoal, and Luke plays a bunch of healing, but if he gets hit by the Torkoal and then gets hit by the Dunsparce, he's in a lot of trouble. Because the Dunsparce will then get the KO, and Luke has no other Pokemon. So Luke here is playing very, very cautiously. He's basically just trying to avoid a situation where a Dunsparce, of all things, is going to come up and do something ridiculous like 110 damage. And that's why he did the 40 attack of Avalugg, not the 90 attack of Avalugg, a little while ago. He wants to get his healing on. So you see there, He's going to do 100. He's going to roll a coin, because if you flip tails, you have to discard with Torkoal, and he does discard. And he gets an energy onto the Dunsparce. And the reason he gets an energy on his Dunsparce is basically he's recognised that Torkoal is going to be going down. The Avalugg's attack for, well, it will do 80, including weakness. Avalugg's attack is going to take down that Torkoal, so he needs the energy on the Dunsparce at the beginning of his turn, because remember, we're still in reverse turn rules, reverse turn order. So he needs to have the energy on the Pokemon at the end of his turn, so he can attack at the beginning of next turn. And essentially, this is now coming down to whether Luke has any healing. There's 100 damage on that Avalugg, which means Dunsparce is going to be coming in and doing 110 damage and killing the Avalugg. But if Luke can, say, heal 60 damage, then he's only going to have 40 damage left, which means that Dunsparce is going to be doing 50, maybe 70 with a muscle band, which will go down to 30 or 50 because of Avalugg's 20 damage reduced from the previous attack. And that's going to kind of fix everything. And you see there, he gets the Pokemon Center Lady, he gets the Hard Charm, which means Dunsparce is only actually going to be doing 10 damage, and that Avalugg's just not going down. Essentially, it all came down to whether Luke could get the healing. So just to be slightly clearer about that, Dunsparce's attack did 10 damage plus 10 for every damage counter on Avalugg. So if Avalugg remained with 100 damage on it from the attack from Torkoal, then that would mean Dunsparce comes in and does 110, which could lower to as much as little as 70 with Hard Charm and Avalugg's attack, and that would still get the KO, putting it up to 180. But by playing the Pokemon Center Lady, that brought Avalugg down to 40 damage, and then he put a Hard Charm on there, and he did Avalugg's attack, which means that Dunsparce's attack is reduced by 40, and it's only doing 50 to begin with, and Avalugg's only got 40 on there. So instead of putting Avalugg up to 170, it put him up to 50. So the Pokemon Center Lady and the Hard Charm really won Luke that game there. Now, Rhys did play the red card to try and put him down to a smaller hand size, because remember, you don't draw your card at the beginning of the turn, you draw it at the end of the turn, which means Luke is actually starting with 4, not 5, but unfortunately included in that red card were both a Pokemon Center Lady and a Hard Charm, so Rhys lost. So Rhys will be going first this game, and he mulligans again. Strangely, Rhys is playing 4 basics and Luke is only playing 2, so we really should be expecting to see Luke mulliganing here, not Rhys. But never mind. Remember, Rhys is on the left, the Torkoal player, Luke is on the right, the Avalugg player, and they are brothers. Now, as we're into Game 2, the reverse play has stopped, thankfully. I was certainly getting a teensy bit confused here and there. I'm hoping you were too, just to make me feel better, but I'm hoping I explained it just about well enough. So we're now into regular turn order, and we're going to go off here. And Luke starts a Bergmite. Of course he starts a Bergmite. He's only playing 2 basics, and they're both Bergmite. And Rhys starts a Torkoal, and he plays a Roller Skate straight away, and I believe he hits a Tails on that. So he gets a Fiery Torch to draw 2 energy, and he actually hits a Blacksmith as well. Question is, does he have any energy in his hand? Does he have any energy he can discard? Now, we could just attach 1 energy and Blacksmith for 1 energy, and just attach the 3rd next turn, because that 80 would kill the Bergmite on his 2nd turn of the game. Otherwise, he's going to need an energy and discard an energy, so that he can Blacksmith for 2 and attach next turn in order to get the turn 2 attack. And he whiffs them both, he's only got the 1 energy. Which means, as it stands, Luke will need to get an energy in the discard, Rhys, and there is a red card Shauna there, as we've seen so many times this tournament, putting Rhys to 4 cards and Luke to 5. So Rhys really, I told you it was confusing. Rhys really needs to get the turn 2 attack here. That will do 80, that will KO the Bergmite, and may even win him the game if Luke can't draw his 2nd Bergmite. The problem is here that Rhys needs a 2nd energy in the discard, and he needs to draw into a fire energy to get the Blacksmith energy combo to fire up that Torkoal. If he does that, he's probably going to win next turn. If not, And that is not a play I would have made if I were Luke. Now, he actually locked in there because he discarded a Sycamore, but if Luke had just used knockoff to discard a Fire Energy, then Rhys would have been able to blacksmith 2 Fire Energy, attach 1, and win the game right there. Rhys is actually playing a deck that wants something in the discard, specifically Fire Energy, and with Luke only having a Bergmite and Rhys needing 3 energy, that's a blacksmith for 2 and a single energy, then that was quite a risky play on his part. Now, there was a slight audio hiccup there, so I don't know if this has gone slightly out of time for the last couple minutes. I hope it hasn't, but if so, it's only going to be for a second. So I was saying there, Luke's Bergmite play was actually quite a risky play, because had he discarded the energy, and Luke had a blacksmith energy in hand, that actually would have got him the win right there. But it's irrelevant, he didn't, and now the game is going very much back into Luke's favour. He's got the Avalugg, he's got the DCE, Luke's only got 1 energy on the Torkoal, and if there's one thing we know about Avalugg, it's from all the videos we've been watching here, it's that Avalugg basically is not getting one-hit KO'd. That's not happening. And technology is really failing me, so if there's another little audio hiccup there, please don't blame me. It's looking very much like Luke is going to be coming out on top here. Rhys, he's already got that Torkoal down to, you know, a whopping 20 damage left, and of course the attack means that Avalugg now has essentially 150 HP, and let's not forget that Luke is playing 2 Super Potion, and Luke is playing 2 Pokemon Center Lady, and Luke is playing Hard Charm, although I don't believe there's actually one on that Avalugg there at the moment. What that means is it's going to be very, very difficult at this stage for Rhys to actually KO that Avalugg, and I'm personally a fan of how Rhys is playing Avalugg here. This would be my preferred way to run Avalugg, because if we look at it, it's kind of, if you look at how Avalugg works, it's got 130 HP, which in this particular format is absolutely phenomenal. Now there's a little rule coming in here at 22 minutes, which basically says, when you attack, you have to say, Simon says. So, for instance, if you wanted to do Torkoal's attack, then you wouldn't just be able to say, Flamethrower, you would have to say, Simon says Flamethrower. If you don't, then you end your turn as you usually would after attacking, but the attack doesn't do anything. A silly little rule which kind of spices up the top 4 just a little bit here. So, if either party forgets to say Simon says, then the attack is not actually going to work. It's just a funky little rule. By the way, we did miss a little rule at 19.5 minutes, which was that every dice roll is going to come up as a heads, which did open it up for Rhys to actually use Dunsparce to continually just paralyse the Avalugg until he had 2 Torkoals built up on the bench, which would have been my particular play, but it's not something that Rhys particularly wanted to do. I'm not sure why, whether he missed it or not, I don't know, but when at 19.5 minutes they decided that every coin flip was going to be a heads, that basically left it open for Rhys to just paralyse with Dunsparce's Glare attack, while he built up 2 Torkoals and maybe even a Dunsparce with 2 energy on the bench. But he didn't do that, so it's very much a moot point. Now here, Rhys is going to flip for the attack, forgetting that it's an automatic heads, but the thing he's forgotten more is that he didn't say Simon says. And if you don't say Simon says, it doesn't actually count, and you don't get to do your attack. And unfortunately, he didn't say Simon says, so that means that his attack doesn't count, and that means that he has lost. Luke becomes the 2-0 winner, and goes forward into the final. And the video for that will be up shortly. My apologies for the slight technical problems. I may be exaggerating, they may not come through, but I've had to kind of stop and restart the video halfway through twice as we go through here. So if I have ended up ever so slightly out of sync, etc., I'm afraid you will have to forgive me, but I will double check. I'm sure it will be fine. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget, as always, to like the video, to subscribe, to comment, to tell all your friends and all of that. And I'll be back shortly to show you the final game from the Sutton Coldfield Professor Rules Tournament. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.